So the Town of Orangeville issued a press release last week that they've installed cameras at the community garden and at the Rotary Skate Park. These cameras have AI functionality built into them to ensure COVID safe distancing guidelines are followed. The Orangeville Banner did an article on this, and the response was pretty negative, but some have expressed that the article's intention was to sensationalize the issue. That being said, it is pretty obvious that this is not the same thing as wearing a mask. Hi, I'm Josh MacEwen, Dufferin News, and I've contacted IRIS R&D, the company who is supplying this technology. And they've gotten back to me with some material on the product. In addition to this, I've done my own research on the company and its products, and I'm waiting back on some questions I've posed to IRIS R&D, and I should have an update for you next week. So far, IRIS R&D has been extremely forthright and helpful, and I'm relatively hopeful that I'll get honest and substantial responses to the questions I asked. I am also confident that this will address many of the concerns people have with this technology. They are a Canadian startup here in Ontario, so I'm grateful for the time they've given me so far, as I know it is extremely limited. In the meantime, I'll share the information with you that I have so far, so you can have a better picture of what's going on here. So, the cameras installed in Orangeville, at the community garden, and the Rotary Skate Park are called the irisGO. According to IRIS R&D, the irisGO was developed as a way to help municipalities make data-driven decisions and build better road infrastructure. Under COVID-19, the technology pivoted towards supporting our frontliners in their mission of safeguarding our communities from the pandemic. Now, irisGO is built from the same technology that they developed to monitor road conditions, which they implemented through a dashcam installed on city-owned vehicles. This technology won IRIS R&D recognition and funding in addition to its place at the TechPlace Launchpad program, and is used in multiple cities across the country. According to IRIS R&D, irisGO is an AI-enabled occupancy detection solution that helps municipalities ensure COVID safe distancing guidelines are followed while protecting privacy of residents and helping municipalities make effective use of limited resources. irisGO uses a technology designed to monitor road conditions and is easily reconfigured to monitor both outdoor spaces such as parks or courtyards and indoor spaces such as event rooms. Privacy is our first priority, and our solution ensures end-to-end security and privacy through image redaction and data encryption. The exciting pilot initiative with the Town of Orangeville will allow IRIS R&D to configure irisGO to ensure it meets the needs of the community throughout the different phases of COVID-19. Once there is no need for the solution, it will be immediately removed and redeployed for monitoring other infrastructure issues, such as snow accumulation levels on municipal rooftops. Traditionally, the irisGO deployed in city vehicles to monitor road issues such as potholes, and all data collected follow the same privacy-centric approach. End quote. Now, this does ring true, as these cameras could be used for many different things. The technology they've built here seems applicable to so many different use cases. One sector that they've already applied it to during COVID is healthcare. They are using it to do remote cardiorespiratory monitoring in hospitals. It measures heart rate, breathing rate, and skin temperature. Now, some privacy-centric features of the irisGO include AI technology, which is built directly into the camera to allow photos that do not contain people to be immediately discarded. Images with people are encrypted and redacted to blur faces upon receipt, and unredacted photos are immediately deleted. All redacted images are deleted after 1 day. Now, according to my own research, I have found that IRIS R&D is working on a product called Face Match, which is a face recognition technology meant for enhancing police capabilities, and they're working with several police departments on it. It can also be used for other applications to search for friends based on photos. I like to remind people that this technology can be used to help find people who are lost, such as those with Alzheimer's and other cognitive difficulties. Now, IRIS R&D has a project with Sheridan College to help reduce race bias in this project, which is a major problem with most facial recognition technologies. There is no evidence that this technology is being deployed in the irisGO cameras in the Town of Orangeville, but that doesn't mean it couldn't be in the future. Now, there are a lot of concerns here, although I believe some are overblown, but I'll share some of the questions with you and the reasoning behind of why I asked them. My reasoning for sharing them with you is as being transparent reduces the chances of me sensationalizing the issue, because that does happen with our local media outlets. Anyways, here we go with the questions. Now, the first one is, did IRIS R&D approach the Town of Orangeville with a solution? If so, why? And why was Orangeville chosen? Now, I asked this one for a few reasons. I mean, I'm curious to learn why, how this deal even happened. And was Orangeville even, seeking a solution like this, which would be weird, and it seems pretty unlikely, or if IRIS R&D came to them with this. And I actually wonder if this has anything to do with Bell's wireless internet network that they did here. They piloted that here in Orangeville as well. And just considering that video and photos with this technology would consume a lot of data, Maybe they wouldn't want to use the actual cell network, and maybe it relies on 5G technology or wireless internet technology. But it'd be curious to know why they chose Orangeville to begin with, regardless. And again, how this deal even happened, because it'd be curious to some why Orangeville was chosen for this. Many would question why. Now, the second question is Orangeville the first municipality to use irisGO or any of the IRIS R&D's products for the following purposes: surveillance of people, crowd control, or ensuring COVID-19 safe distancing guidelines are followed. Now, I phrased it this way to address the concerns of those most concerned with the program, but I am genuinely curious to learn if anyone else has used it for these purposes. I mean, it sounds a little conspiratorial the way I phrased it, again, but I'm curious to know who else is using it for these purposes, and if we're the very first ones. Because if that is, then we should know. I mean, then we definitely should know. I mean, they do say it's a pilot, but that doesn't always mean we're the first. And we'd also be good to know who else is in this program with us. Again, I'm just curious why Orangeville is the first place. There's many other places they could go. I mean, this is an Oakville company. From what I understand, this company's based in Oakville, so I don't understand why they're not doing it in their own municipality. They may have chosen us because of the face masks, because we were the first to adopt the face masks. But again, I don't think we should equate this with that. I can understand the face mask. I'm in favor of the face mask, even though I wasn't when I first heard about it. But after 5 minutes and thinking about it, I did change my mind. But anyways, the cameras are not the same thing as wearing a face mask. I don't really see the necessity, especially at those locations. From what I understand, it's the splash pads and the conservation area, like Island Lake, that's really the problems. So I don't understand why they're putting them there. I think there may be some other reasons that's not necessarily about crowds, but I don't know. Again, that's just, I don't understand why they've chosen those locations. I mean, they said one was passive and one was active, but I don't know. I'm just curious as to why those locations were chosen. But anyways, there's just a lot of questions with this project. But anyways, moving forward. How much does it cost to obtain an irisGO? And how much does it cost to operate on an annual basis? I mean, this is a pretty obvious question. Costs matter to the taxpayer, and now's not the time to needlessly spend money. I mean, again, why are we, these cameras don't seem necessary. And given all the other talks of cost cutting we're talking about, it just seems odd that we've gone out of our way to do this. It's possible we're getting this technology for free, but either way, we should know what it could cost afterwards, after the pilot program's over, because we could be on the hook for something. But regardless, we should know. And like I mentioned earlier, transferring photo and video footage can consume a lot of data, which could cost a lot of money. Now, my next question is, who programs the use case? Who programs the use of the irisGO? Is it the user, or as in the Town of Orangeville, or is it IRIS R&D? And can this be done remotely? Because, and who gets notified when these changes occur? And does this require an additional fee? Now, the logic behind this one is we should know who is programming these cameras, such as switching them from road maintenance mode to snow accumulation monitoring mode, which is odd to me. But anyways, to the mode that they're using to ensure safe distancing guidelines are met. Now, if it's the town, we should know that the process that they'll have to go through to actually switch between modes, and which data is captured in each of these modes, and if we'll be alerted when they're switching between the modes. A multi-purpose device like this can be used for a lot of different things, and it can be abused in many different ways. So we need to make sure who has control over this and what it is collecting and when it's collecting these things. It sounds like these devices are capable of collecting a lot of personal health data, like I mentioned with how it's being used in healthcare, and we need to know of what is being collected and when. I also want to know if there's any additional fees to switching between modes, as this matters to the taxpayer. It's quite likely that the snow accumulation mode is maybe a little less expensive than, ensuring safe distancing guidelines. It doesn't seem like it'd use the same kind of services, but who knows? I think the monthly fees would be different, but again, I have no idea, and it'd be good to know all of this because, again, this device can be used for different things, and if there are different costs associated with different functionalities, we should know. Now I asked, is it possible to deploy Face Match, which is the facial recognition technology that I mentioned earlier that IRIS R&D is working on, or any other facial recognition technology on an irisGO camera? I alluded to this earlier, and this obviously matters for privacy reasons. I'm fully aware of the benefits of facial recognition, and I'm excited for them. Like I said, it can help find people who are lost, like those with Alzheimer's and other cognitive impairments. Also, I think it is not possible to stop this technology from existing at this point. That being said, we need to be careful with it as it can be abused, and the technology is proven to be racially biased. IRIS R&D appears to be putting resources into reducing this bias, but we're not there yet. The technology is not properly regulated, and we need to be extremely cautious if and when it is used in our community. We need to have informed voices on this. I'm also concerned of the small possibility that these cameras will be used to supplement police services now that Orangeville has gotten rid of its local police force in favor of the OPP. If quality falls too far, some council members may feel pressure to use that technology to police the citizens in efforts to save face. And that would not be good for our citizens, especially in its current state. And this would be even worse because OPP has less accountability to the town than Orangeville Police does. My next question is, will the data produced by the irisGO devices in Orangeville be run through Face Match or any other facial recognition technology? Now, this sounds almost exactly like the question I just asked. I just want to make sure I'm addressing all the concerns properly, as I'm not sure if the Face Match technology is deployed on the camera or if it functions as in the data is run through it, as in the data that's stored by IRIS R&D. Now, I proceed to ask, do you see how some may find it concerning how a company that exposes the importance of privacy, as they do with irisGO, is also piloting facial recognition technology with police services? My logic for asking this question is if the police are paying me and I'm worried about losing their business to a competitor, which this business is actually pretty competitive, especially since the big guys are kind of taking a step back because there's a lot of regulatory, there's a lot of backlash on this technology, especially with the racial bias implications. So there's a lot more room for the smaller guys to come in, and there's a lot more competition as a result of this, which will lead some companies to compromise their principles in order to make sure that they save their business. Because the thing is, if you lose out on certain clients, it could mean for a lot of these startups the end of their business. If they don't make enough progress or keep their growth up. So that's why we have to ask ourselves, how far are they willing to go to protect our privacy before they risking their business? As it's very hard to be Apple and Google at the same time. I don't know a single company that's been able to pull it off. So we seriously need to have answers to those questions. Now I ask if IRIS R&D is able to share if Orangeville Police Services, Shelburne Police Services, or the Ontario Provincial Police is piloting facial recognition technology that was developed by IRIS R&D. This matters, obviously. There's privacy implications, huge ones. And if they've chosen Orangeville as a pilot location for some of their products, it is not unreasonable to ask if they are testing other products here, such as their face match technology. Obviously, it would be a logical place to do that. I know it sounds like Orangeville, and now I know Orangeville Police Services and Shelburne Police Services are going away, but they could have been used as a pilot service so far. And again, the Ontario Provincial Police could be using it currently as well. And if it's being deployed in our community, we should know. Now, they may not answer this question, but we need to ask. And if they don't provide an answer, there may be other ways to get answers to this question. So we're going to pursue every avenue that we can. Now, my next question is, are you able to share if the aforementioned organizations, as in the police services, are using any products or services provided by IRIS R&D, including but not limited to any that incorporate the use of facial recognition technology? Again, a question that sounds exactly as the same one as before, but I want to make sure that we get an accurate picture of what products and services IRIS R&D is deployed in our community, and they could be using other facial recognition technology that IRIS R&D didn't develop. It could just actually be using somebody else's in the meantime. Again, I just want to make sure we know what's going on here. Now, is it possible for someone to view an irisGO's live video feed? And if so, are faces blurred on the live video feed? Because the information I've gotten so far is only that the irisGO takes photos. I want to know if it takes video and if someone can get access to a live feed. And if it does take video, we need to know if the privacy is still respected, because this may not be possible. So we need to know what's going on here. And again, who has access to all this? Because there are big implications to that. There's a big difference between getting a photo, again, of a blurred face, which there's still privacy implications there, versus, again, a live video of, again, an unblurred face. My face the way it is now. Now, if I'm captured on irisGO, that's my next question. If I'm captured on irisGO, is it possible for someone to see my face under any circumstance? Because honestly, for for the intended function of ensuring safe distancing guidelines are being met, I don't see the necessity of that. Because obviously there are huge privacy implications here, and it's not needed. If they are switching to other modes, such as for road maintenance alerts, or again for snowfall accumulation on roofs, we should know if this changes things. Again, I want to know. I want to know everything. What's going on here? We need to know what's going on. It matters. Now, I'm sorry. There's a lot of questions here, but anyways, my next one is it necessary for someone to see the photos and videos produced by an irisGO for the technology to function in terms of the stated purpose of ensuring COVID-19 safe distancing guidelines are being met? And again, like I said, it shouldn't be, but I would love to hear them say so. And if that's the case, there should be no excuse for anyone to ever look at the photos. Now, I suspect that the irisGO takes a photo of the crowd and that the faces are blurred, confirmed that the event's actually taking place. So it reduces the event to the town's workers going to an event that actually may not be happening. Because, it is new technology and false positives can happen. But my real concern is that I worry that the irisGO takes a photo of anybody whenever it detects anybody. And that this is accessible to anybody or like the town's workers, which is not necessary for this function. Those pictures should never be kept. That seems more like a surveillance thing versus ensuring safe distancing guidelines are met. It just doesn't seem necessary to me. The exception I can see to this is because it's a pilot program, but at the same time, I want to know who has access to those photos then, or that video, because if it's people in our town, then we should know who it is and all of that. It should be on the record, and we should know the process of what it takes to get access to all of this, because again, there are huge privacy implications of this. Now, my next question is who is able to see the photos and videos generated by an irisGO? As like I said, this matters. Is it town employees, town council, the police? Is it me? Who can get access to this? How easy is it to do that? Now, what data is generated by an irisGO? And is any of this data stored for longer than a day? Now, IRIS R&D has developed technology that can collect a lot of data, including heart rates, skin temperature, and breathing patterns. And even if this is anonymized, they shouldn't just be entitled to it just because we live in the town of Orangeville and someone accepted a deal that, again, it doesn't sound like anybody had real input on as far as the community goes. And also, we should know if they're selling access to this data. I doubt this, but if they are double dipping by getting our tax dollars and selling our personal data, that's a problem and we need to know. Now, I'm almost done here, but one of the last questions is, where is the data stored, who owns it, and who has access to it? Now, this has many implications, and if the town owns it, do the town's people have access to it? Because, technically they own it. Is it part of the open data initiative? There's a lot of questions here, and is the data anonymized? Again, where is this data stored? Is it stored in Canada? Is it stored somewhere else amongst the world? All of this matters. There are a ton of implications, and it's hard to comment too much more on it because, again, there's so many possibilities, and all it will really do is drive up fear, which I'm not trying to do. This matters, if we get reasonable answers, then it's a pretty easy thing to deal with. But if there's more concerning things, I'll raise them then. But for now, I'll just leave it there. My next question is, in the future, if additional parties want to have access to the data and footage generated by an irisGO in Orangeville, how does one obtain it? Does it require approval from the Town of Orangeville and or our IRIS R&D? We need to know if this is on the public record and who actually approves it, and if the Town of Orangeville has final say over who has access. Now, given everything so far, if IRIS R&D answers all or even most of these questions, I think it'll be pretty easy for me to take their answers at face value. The type of people who dedicate their lives to building this technology are typically doing it to help move society forward in a positive direction. The problem typically comes from outside financiers, such as those involved in venture capitalism and in the financial markets. But IRIS R&D is a small enough company that I can still hope that the beneficial uses of this technology are still what drives the company. Did you know that the guys who made Google didn't want to do advertising at the start? Then venture capitalists came in and everything changed. Anyways, I'll provide you with an update once I have one. If you have any questions about the cameras in Orangeville, please share in the comments and I'll do my best to get them answered. I'm Josh MacEwen with Dufferin News. Thanks for watching, and until next time, have a great one.